Okay, this is the English Colonies Review. This is designed for my U.S. history class to review for their quiz, but it could be helpful to anyone studying American history or studying the colonies. The French and Indian War is the French and the Indians versus the British and the Indians. The causes were land and resources and a history of competition between Britain and France. The effects of it, the French lose and are forced to sign the Treaty of Paris and lose most of their land. Which gives the United States, the future United States, plenty of land when the colonists rebel to give them the resources to be a strong nation quickly. The Indians, of course, are the big losers. They were not included in the Treaty of Paris and will be bossed and bullied around by both sides throughout the entire thing. The Great Awakening was a spiritual movement in the colonies. It was a revival where people refocused on serving God and getting back to their spiritual roots after they felt like they had strayed away. It inspired people to seek more freedom. And by seeking more freedom, they start to question the British government more, and they realized they had the power of God behind them, was what they believed, and therefore they weren't scared of the British government or any other forces in their lives. So they wanted to build what they had in mind, which eventually would become the United States. So their thoughts, words, and actions will eventually lead to the United States of America being created. How did the colonists pursue freedom? They pursued it by protesting the Boston Tea Party, Boston Massacre, other boycotts, committees of correspondence, the Sons of Liberty. They also pursued it by their government actions in the different state legislatures. They petitioned and complained to the government. Eventually this leads to rebellion. Eventually this leads to all-out war. Life lessons from the chapter. Well, if you go back to the beginning, Jamestown, they did not sow good seeds or tend to them. And they had lots of problems in the beginning. But, in your life, you want to put good ideas, good actions, good words into actions and tend to them and watch them grow. And then you'll get a harvest bigger that's later. So that's more of a metaphor than anything about sowing good seeds unless you're actually a farmer. Always keep the peace. War and strife will distract you from your goals and what you're trying to achieve. Obviously, you don't let anyone walk over you, but you look for the most peaceful solutions you can in most situations. The people of Jamestown had a problem with that as they were constantly getting at war with the natives unnecessarily, and it kept setting them back. Beware of hysteria. This is from the Salem witch trials. You think about how hysteria get out of control. That's a fear that is unbased on fact, that gets mass attention, or exaggerated fear, and it usually leads to bad actions and problems, and it did in the Salem witch trials as well with people dying. You have to be in the habit of doing your best in the market economy we have here in the United States that was developed in the colonies. It's about competition. You compete for jobs, you compete for the good jobs, you compete for your product being sold. If you're not in the habit of doing your best, you're going to fall behind. You always want to make sure your thoughts, words, and actions line up with your goals. If you're thinking thoughts contrary to your goals, if you're speaking words contrary to your goals, you will not take actions that will lead to your ultimate success. So there's just a few. There's several life lessons. You can look them up. Compare the Boston Tea Party and the Bacon's Rebellion. Well, there's a lot of similarities. They're both against Britain. The colonists complain against Britain. Bacon's is much earlier, 1676. It's over taxes and land. It was kind of foolish because they attacked Native American tribes and burned their capital of Jamestown down. It was very violent, and ultimately it failed. And of course, it was down south in Virginia. Much farther north, the Boston Tea Party was nonviolent. But it will inspire a larger rebellion. Again, it was also over taxes, but it's not really over land. So you can see some similarities and differences there. The Mayflower Compact had a huge impact on America because it was laws created for the common good. It eventually will inspire the U.S. Constitution. It was at that time people were really serving the government. This was the idea that the government should be doing the good for all people, not just for a few. SQUANTO and Pocahontas, in a surprising way, may have helped save the development of the United States by keeping Jamestown and Plymouth going. They showed compassion and sometimes mercy, giving them help when the colonists didn't deserve it. Their actions led the colonists having enough food, learning how to plant crops, having peace with native tribes, which kept those early colonies going, which eventually would lead to the United States over 100 years later. Salem witch trials, we're not really sure what happened to the girls that caught the affliction, or they're acting so strangely. But we do know hysteria came out of it. We do know that people blamed the weaker people in their communities and unpopular people in their communities in calling them witches, and it led to tragedy of several people dying, 19 to 23 people dying, depending on which account you hear, and from false accusations. So it's a real tragedy when hysteria gets out of control and you let fear dominate your life. Problems are going to happen. Tragedy is to follow. Again, the American free market economy, it's been hugely successful because people have to do their best. It's based on competition. We're fortunate enough in this country that you could probably not do your best and do okay because we're so prosperous. But if you really want to succeed in America and achieve your goals and live the best life possible, you have to be ready to compete for the best jobs and for the best business for your business person. So we have to get in the habit of doing our best no matter what. Make a choice to do our best no matter what. Jamestown was really founded, our first colony in 1607. There's a lot of foolishness there. They didn't plant seed, so they didn't have a harvest. They starved. They got in unnecessary wars with the Native Americans. But throughout all that foolishness, they did have great persistence. They kept going and never gave up. John Smith got them reorganized with his leadership. John Rolfe's guts to bring the tobacco over changed everything, giving them a cash crop that would make them prosperous. Pocahontas' mercy and compassion on John Smith kept the colony going, and then she also brought food to them in times when things were difficult. And eventually her marriage to John Rolfe will seal a agreement between the colonists and the natives that will give them a lasting peace for a while to allow Jamestown to get going. Taxation without representation was the main complaint by the colonists against the British government. They said, if you're going to tax us, you have to give us a representation or voice in your government. Back in England, that never happened, and the taxes kept coming, and the resentment and anger kept growing. Eventually, it leads to the American Revolution and the establishment of the United States of America. Hope this was helpful. Again, this was just a quick, specific review for my students, but it should help anyone trying to review for the events in the colonies before the American Revolution.